All right, here we go. Number 18 of our college algebra homework number 4 in our MyLab math. It says, given the polynomial function has the given 0, find the other zeros. And so this is our function. Here at the end, this number at the end, this is the given 0. We need to find the other zeros. So here's what we know, okay? We know that our function has a degree of 3. Degree is 3, and what that means, it means that we're going to have 3 zeros, and we know that 5 is one of those zeros. 5 is a 0. So the way we're going to find the other 2 zeros is we're going to use synthetic division to knock this down from a cubic to a quadratic. So remember, our synthetic division starts with 5 in the box. We know that 5 is a given 0. So when I do synthetic division on the function, I will get a 0 remainder. And our coefficients are 1, -7, 15, -25. And here goes the synthetic division. 1 drops. 1 times 5 is 5. Add them up and multiply. Add them up and multiply. Add them up. No surprise, we get a 0 remainder. Because 5 was a 0, we know that that's going to be a 0 remainder. But here's the cool thing. The 1, -2, and 5, those are the coefficients of the quotient, which has to be degree 1 less than the function. So now we know that we've got x squared minus 2x plus 5 is the remaining part. If I set that equal to 0 and solve, then I can find the other 2 zeros. Now we could try to solve by factoring, but there are not numbers that multiply to make 5 that add to make 2. And so we could use completing the square, or we could use the quadratic formula. Yeah, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to use completing the square just because you need to see that again. So for completing the square, remember the constant has to move over first, and that leaves an empty space here. 5 becomes -5, and I've got to come up with the number that completes the square. So we're going to divide -2 divided by 2, which gives -1. And then that number we need to square, which gives me a +1. Recall that this is the completing the square process. You take half of the b, half of the coefficient of x, and then you square that and get 1. Whatever I add to one side, I have to add to the other. And so now we have x squared minus 2x plus 1 equals -4 if I combine my like terms. And now this trinomial, the x squared minus 2x plus 1, should factor nicely. So if I read the signs, a plus at the back means I have to look at the front, and they're both going to be negative. X and x to give me the x squared. And the numbers that multiply to make 1, that add to make 2, well, that's going to be 1 and 1. Those are the only numbers that multiply to make 1. -4 comes down. Notice that these factors are identical, which they have to be when you complete the square. And that's going to simplify to x minus 1 squared equal -4. Then taking the square root of both sides to get rid of that squared gives me x minus 1 equals, now the square root of 4 is 2, but since it's negative underneath, that means it's going to be complex. And remember, anytime I take the square root of both sides, I do need a plus and a minus. Last step, bringing the -1 over, tells me that x is going to equal 1 plus 2i and 1 minus 2i. Those are my other 2 zeros. And those zeros are complex. So let's see how to put those into MyLab math. 1 plus 2i, comma, 1 minus 2i. Bam! And we're done. And so that's how you do that particular problem. I hope that was helpful. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to put them in the comment section below, or you can text me. And thanks for watching.